sometimes you want one type and other people want a different type, and there's a lot of different type midwives, so we're gonna go over all of that in this video. Area, I have made a sheet of all the local midwives. Welcome back to another video. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're gonna be going over how to find a midwife. Now we're gonna be going over a few different things on how this works. So number one, how do you actually find any midwife? How do you find a midwife? What kind of midwife do you want? And then like you find a midwife, you find several midwives, whatever it be. How do you find one that's gonna mesh with you, that's gonna be good for your situation? Because sometimes you want one type and other people want a different type, and there's a lot of different type midwives, so we're gonna go over all of that in this video. So before we get into this, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and let's get into this. So first off, little baby is right here. Yeah, and he may just be chitter chatter, so that's gonna probably be happening. So just be aware of that one, cause he's cute and he likes to jabber jabber. So how to find a midwife? So that I think a lot. If your area is a lot remote, it's hard to find midwives. Probably your first one, you actually probably should look up like your laws in your state, because I know some states are really good and there's a lot of midwives and other ones are not. So I don't know all of that, how it works, because here in Utah, midwives are legal. There are things they can and can't do. Some states are a lot better with that, but we don't have that problem. But I know some it can even be illegal or different types or whatever. So look up that, number one. But let's say midwifery is legal in your area, home birth, or you know, all that. How do you find one? Number one is to Google. A lot of times you type in like midwife, it will tell you different midwife in your area. So that's a really good resource, because a lot of times they'll put them into Google. But what if you're in an area and it's harder to find a midwife, and maybe there are like restrictions, so they don't want to be as public? What do you do? Looking around. A lot of times if you ask people, local Facebook groups, friends, acquaintances, people you find online, they'll both help direct you in that right direction. I know even like different birthing accounts I follow will be like, hey, does anyone know any midwives in this area? One account I love to follow is Twin Home Birth, because I think it's just so fun to see twin home birth. And so every once in a while they'll be like, hey, do you know a midwife in this area that does home birth? So that's another good one. And I said like Facebook, different things like that, ask for your different groups. But kind of in finding that, you first need to figure out what kind of midwife you want. I know there's a lot of different certifications, and honestly there's a lot that I don't even understand fully. The different types of midwives, but you have your midwives, kind of what it's more commonly called, who are in the hospital. Some are more prone to more like natural stuff. Some are not, and are just like a glorified doctor. So kind of figure out what the situation is. I know here in Utah, there's some great ones at the hospital. I've heard a lot of good things. I like my home birth, but I also know that there's some other good ones. So just because I love home birth doesn't mean that that's gonna be your situation that you want to do, and that's totally fine. So kind of finding out the type you want. Here in Utah, we have like your certified midwives, and they actually they can do more things like medical stuff. But if you're unregistered, you can do twin birth, and so there's all that. So kind of just figure out though, like the laws in your area, what kind you're gonna want, all that. Do you want a home birth midwife? Do you want a hospital midwife? All that. So I think even for me, if you guys live here in Utah and you're wanting to find a midwife, at least in my area, I have made a sheet of all the local midwives that are close to me, and honestly I can't even keep up with it because we keep getting more and more midwives in this area. But if you are local, let me know and I can send you that list. Just let me know over on Instagram. I'd be happy to share it. I personally used two different midwives. We had the one with my first son and then my second son, and so I just kind of keep a list of all that and kind of just how I found. So most of them I found on Facebook. When I first had my first son, there was not a lot. So turn on Facebook, Google So I went into Google, searched up, and there wasn't a whole lot. I sent a message, or I looked on their like websites first to kind of get a balance of like who's who. The one I ended up going with was one a previous family member used, and so I kind of knew her already a little bit. I met her once because I went to that interview like years and years ago. Appointment. Yeah, you're so cute. So kind of finding out that way, like, that's kind of how I went with it. There's also where we were at. No, there are not a lot of midwives who would come down there at the time, which now there's a whole lot more, so that's great. But I've been compiling this list for years of different midwives kind of in the area. And I just so happened one day to be driving, me and Logan were out to eat dinner, and I see this like sign for like midwife, and I was like, there's a midwife here? I don't know this one. Ended up writing it down, not thinking much of it. Like I looked them up online, follow them, whatever. When I got pregnant again, I had planned to use a different midwife already than my first one for different reasons, and reached out to the midwife. I'd already like talked to her, and I really wanted to use her, and she was off that month for family stuff, which I totally understand because midwives need a break. But then I couldn't use her, and so I was just like, crap, what am I gonna do? So I started interviewing a lot of other midwives, figuring that all out, and it ended up this midwife that I saw this building for, I ended up reaching out to her because my brother and sister-in-law, they want to do home birth. They had gone through my list and talked to her, and they really loved her, and all that. And so I was like, well, they have good stuff about her, so I might as well interview her. So I did, and ended up loving her. So we went with her, and I have another sister who now is using her. So we love her. She's amazing. She travels. She comes to my house. I never had to leave for an appointment, and actually one day I wasn't even going to be home for the appointment. I ended up being at my parents'. She came to my parents, and we had an appointment in the middle of the garden, and it was great. And she's so good because she kind of works with like, hey, she lets me trust, she understands that I know what I'm doing, and she's really good about that. And I just like got everything I wanted at my birth because she was so good and patient, and she let me just do it all, and it was great. So yeah, but that's like a good thing to know. What kind of midwife do you want? What kind of philosophy? What's important to you? Because if you're not really caring as much about what you want in your birth, then maybe that's what a hospital, like I think that's most people that just don't really care. They're gonna hospital, they're gonna do that. But I'm guessing if you're looking at a midwife, you kind of have no more what you want. But even on those levels of like what you want is gonna be different. Like for me, I wanted to be able, my first was very hands-on. There was some complication. My son's head started coming down face first. We had to rotate him. Ended up being good, but I didn't want to be touched. I want to be able to do as much as I could on my own and just really relax. And so talking to her, she was totally chill about that with my midwife. So finding that, are the midwives that you're choosing, are they going to be good about that? Are they going to try to have more control? You want to figure that out. Do your personalities mesh? I think it's really important. You don't want someone that you're going to feel uncomfortable with, because that's usually why you're trying to do a home birth. Midwife is someone you feel more comfortable, that you know you get familiar with. And kind of finding that out, because I know there's even like midwife or like birth centers or midwives, and there'll be several in there and you don't know who you're gonna get, and maybe that's fine with you. So it's finding what that balance is on who's gonna make you most comfortable, and do you feel, if there are several and one can be on call, do you feel comfortable with all of them? So finding out, like, do you want more holistic? Do you want someone that will has more medical experience? What's that balance? Because like even between my two midwives, my first midwife, very holistic, could do some things, some medical stuff, but just because of her certification, she couldn't do some other things. My next midwife, still very natural, very holistic, but because of her certification, she could do a little bit more than the first. So kind of finding that, if you have your first, you don't know what's going to go on, so it's kind of hard to determine that, what you kind of want and don't want. But I knew, like, for me, from the complication I had in the first one, when I talked to my second midwife, hey, can you deal with these situations? What would you do there? Which kind of goes into like my next point. When you're talking to a midwife, how hospital prone are they? Because you kind of have to find that balance and so you want to figure out what their transfer rate is. And there's 3 different transfer terms: the anterperium, I don't know. Before you like give birth, what's that rate? What's like you're in labor, and then what's the postpartum rate? And kind of finding those out and just kind of figuring out, are they very hospital prone? What are the reasons for that? Most of the time they're probably not on the midwives, but sometimes they could be if they're very high. And figuring that out, a lot's based on you as a mom, your medical history, different complications, whatever that be. But finding someone who is skilled, that was really important for me, because something goes wrong, I want them to be able to handle different situations and not just be like, oh, one little thing goes wrong, we have to go to the hospital. And that's some midwives. So you pay them to do all this work, and one little thing happens and then you have to go. But that being said, I want them to be able to treat as much at home, but also I want them to be able to recognize an emergency and know, hey, we need to go to the hospital now, and them not to be like so anti-hospital. So it's finding that balance to make sure you and your baby are safe too. Yeah. Well, I think that's most of my points that I was gonna cross. I kind of like whipped them all in together, even though I had them like all bullet pointed out. But hopefully this kind of helps you guys find a midwife. Let me know below, have you had a home birth? Are you wanting a home? Let me know below if you're using a midwife, you want to use a midwife, or whatever that be, down below in the comments. And hopefully this is helpful in you guys finding someone. I know it may be more difficult or easy depending on the areas you are, but hopefully this kind of helps out a little bit, and hopefully you have an amazing birth experience. But I will see you guys hopefully next week. Have a great day, great night, God bless.